back to the Paranormal Girl podcast. I am your host, Kristen. I have been so excited to get back to these conversation episodes. I've been hankering for the stories and the new ideas, and I've got a great one here to start out the new season, complete with both prepared for you guys. Before we get to our guest, a quick word from our sponsors. Happy New Year from our friends over at Manscaped. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have you covered for your much-needed resolution of bringing sexy back. I think that is a pretty good resolution, you guys. Join the 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com and use code PNG for 20% off plus free shipping. I bet some of you have resolved to start going to the gym. Yes? Well, if that is the case, I have some Manscaped goodies here that I think would make perfect additions to your post-workout routine. First up, we have the Manscaped deodorant. Now, Lee has been using this for about a week now, and Lee's main gripes with a lot of the regular deodorants is that they're either way too smelly or they have a bunch of crap in them, like chemicals and stuff. So I just asked him how he was feeling about the deodorant, and he said he really likes the smell. It reminds him a lot of the body wash, which I know he really, really likes, but he likes the smell because it's a subtler scent, but it's still there, it's still explicit. And I can attest, he smells very, very nice. He also likes that it is aluminum and paraben free. And I get that. Like, you've got to be really careful about what you are putting on your skin because it's so absorbent. So I am glad to recommend something he genuinely likes and fit the bill for him. I would also like to recommend the Crop Mop Ball, Butt, and Body Wipes. So, look, they smell very, very nice. They don't leave me sticky after I use them, and they're convenient. Wipes are convenient. I just throw a couple of these in my gym bag, and I like to keep them on hand because you know what? You never know when you're going to need a wipe. So, if you would like to try either of these or both for yourself, get 20% off plus free shipping by using code PNG at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with discount code PNG. Time to feel sexy and free this 2023 with Manscaped. My guest is an activist with his degree in religion and philosophy. He is also a filmmaker, podcaster, and YouTuber, and he is also an old buddy of mine. We used to have long conversations about philosophy and religion and the paranormal into the wee hours of the night back when I used to live in Hollywood. So I was very glad to finally get him on the show so he could come on and share some of his stories and share his knowledge and talk about some personal experiences that he has had with the supernatural. So please enjoy my conversation with my friend, Charles Chaw.
I went to Berkeley. I studied linguistics and philosophy there. Then later on, I went to grad school in Eastern religion and philosophy and social culture anthropology. So, I am coming from a rigorous academic background, but a big part of why in grad school, so in between college and grad school, the reason why I went into Eastern religion and philosophy is I started realizing that our current modern system, so when I refer to our current modern system, it's America, right? But the way in which we think of things, scientific, industrial,
Yeah.
authoritative sources, right?
Mm-hmm.
I realized that the biggest questions in life are either unanswered or categorically refused to even investigate. These are
Right.
questions that you're not even allowed to ask, right?
Right.
So, as an undergraduate at Berkeley in philosophy, the one thing you're never allowed to ask in a philosophy major is, how do I live my life? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning of life? What are we here for? The fundamental questions that every human genuinely, like, deeply cares about and is the most important thing are off the table.
Mm-hmm.
You will be laughed at for even contemplating it, right? So in other words, the modern world has said all the answers that we have to put forward will never touch the things that you genuinely care about the most. So that's why it's so irrelevant to us, and why you see this upsurge of religious lunacy, and you see this lunatic fringe skyrocketing because they realize correctly that the modern system has failed them in answering life's deepest mysteries. Why am I here? Where what is life about? And so that was my quest. That's why I studied in grad school. I went into Eastern religion and philosophy because I wanted to understand the mysterious world more. What was it like to heal your body? you know that was my main concern at that time, that my body was hurting me. I was a young man, but my body was hurting me, and Western medicine wanted to fill me full of drugs. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to let you turn me into a dope fiend.
Yeah.
Let me find out how people used to heal themselves naturally, and I did. I discovered that way, and that's when I realized, oh, there's a whole world out there that the Western world has ignored, that that the way humans used to do things. And so I realized that there was a huge chunk missing from my knowledge, and from the world that was proposed to me. And it was at that same time that I was healing my body that I lived in an extremely haunted house and worked at an extremely haunted hotel. So this,
It
so
all
this
came
is
together.
no, it always does. It
Yeah.
really always
Yeah.
does,
Yep.
and that's the thing. So as I was on this journey of health, discovering modalities of healing that were told by Western doctors. Oh, that, by the way, that's a myth. What do you call that? Placebo. That's just placebo. Now, here's the thing: placebo in Greek has two different meanings, either of unknown or multiple sources. So in the Western mind, we only take, the unknown or unknown or false sources, or of multiple sources. So in fact, what Western medicine again has failed us in, right? Not that it's don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If you break your arm, you go to Western medicine. But if you've got a chronic condition that Western medicine says we don't know how to do, we could just mute and dull some of the symptoms you're feeling, but we can't get to the root cause. That's where you want to check out the alternative medicines, et cetera, where people have been treating these things for generations, for centuries, millennia. So that's where I started realizing we've been sold a bill of goods, and it's really at best just half the picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then of
Mm-hmm.
course during that time, I'm having all these hauntings, thinking it's really, really failed us. Now, not just on a personal level, but like the world around us is way more mysterious than they're gonna sit here and acknowledge.
Yeah.
Because if you want to be just drummed out of relevancy, currency, and respectability, go ahead and mention that you live in a haunted house and work in a haunted hotel. Okay, go
Yep.
ahead, try it. People will
Mm-hmm.
be like, yeah, let me distance myself from you. It's just a
Yeah.
fundamental way of saying I'm kooky, weird, ridiculous, insane, tinfoil hat, whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what a tremendous betrayal. That's what activists, so my activist background, that's what in philosophy we call discipline. So if you want to become a journalist on a high level, you have to have what's called discipline. That means you don't ask that question, and anyone that does, you laugh at them.
Right. Right.
They know not to ever even touch that.
Yep. Obviously, there is something going
And
on.
that's what
Otherwise,
that's
we
where
are
we're
all
fringe,
crazy. Yeah.
right? That's where we come in. We're unfortunately in the fringe, even
Yeah.
though we're the
Yeah.
mainstream. So
Yeah, yeah. More people than not have come across these encounters, have experienced something. They have special like healing ability. That all of this whole world, like more
right.
people than not do, and it's so strange how ostracizing it can still be if you just say, "Hey, yeah, I lived in a haunted house."
Mm-hmm.
Even I still question that whenever I tell somebody, even my paranormal podcast friends, when I tell them a story that happened to me that maybe I haven't told on the show, I'm always like, "Does that sound? Do I sound?" Like crazy? Does that sound crazy? And they're like, no, what are you talking about? No. Like, it's so strange. Like, as far into this field as you get, as far into this world as you get, there's always that you're aware of
Yeah,
that stigma.
yeah, I think that, yeah, that's the problem. That
Mm-hmm.
stigma, that's how
Mm-hmm.
the system,
Sure.
oppresses that. Now, on the other hand, that skepticism is extremely healthy,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't remember who said it, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and
Carl
that's fair.
Sagan?
I'll take it.
Carl Sagan?
You're right. It is. Yeah.
I
So,
can't believe I knew
and
that.
I'm
Trivial.
okay with that. Yeah, I know. You win.
All right, all right. So why don't you go ahead and start telling us some stories from that haunted
Okay,
house, some of those
so
earlier experiences.
right. So how did I discover that I lived in a haunted house? So, I can tell you that I'll tell you the end of the story. Our ghost was left-handed. Okay. And now how did I know that? Okay. So just to kind of tell you where I lived, you need to know where I lived. I was in San Jose at the time, or Santa Clara rather. And there's a road there called Winchester Avenue. Does that name sound familiar? Winchester Rifles, Winchester
Mm-hmm.
Mystery House? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I live down the street from the Winchester Mystery House.
Wow.
So, just for those of you who don't know the story, Mrs. Winchester, inherited her fortune from her husband, who invented the Winchester repeating rifle, which caused a tremendous amount of death, especially out here on the West. The Indian Wars, et cetera, right? And so she was told by her mediums that the spirits that were haunting her would be best confused if she built constantly. So she had two or three different construction crews constantly building and adding onto her house. So, staircases would go up into walls and ceiling. I mean, it was all willy nilly, but that's what they needed to do. So the which and you can look that up. That place is haunted like crazy. Um, the one story that I remember the best from that is they interviewed this one of the maintenance guys that works there, right? And he's a working class guy. He's not one of these new age froofy types or whatever, right? He's not one of those, but he tells a very basic story. He's like, yeah, there's this, because of how they built the house all willy-nilly, there's this just one light bulb that it's not near any wall, so he has to have this ludicrously huge, what do you call those, A type ladders? In other words, he can't take a step. Like when you have a super high ladder that you need, you usually
Uh-huh.
lean it against the wall like firemen do.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, he has to have one of those A ladders, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
they built it so crazily that in order to reach that one light bulb, you have to have, he has this ludicrously tall, right? So he climbs all the way up to the top, replaces the light bulb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he looks down, he sees two kids, and he's in a restricted area. So he's like,
Uh-huh.
"You kids, you can't be here." Climbs back down the ladder, looks around, no kids. Looks up, light bulb's gone.
Oh, what?
So yeah, so he has okay, so he has to climb back up and put another one in.
Oh, wow.
So this kind of thing. So that's a good lead in. We're going to start getting into some of my theories on what hauntings are. At any
I
rate, the ones
love a
that I've
good no,
experienced and
I
heard
love
of.
a good theory.
Right.
Do it, please.
I feel like so I'm doing everything backwards. I'm starting at the end. So my theory is I think that when you're a ghost, the primary difference between the living and the non-living is when you're not living anymore, the one thing you cannot have anymore is experience, or experiencing life experience. You don't you don't get to touch, feel, you don't get any of that anymore. My theory is the only experience as a non-living spirit is that you get to surprise the living. When you get them to notice you, you get a slight thrill of ha ha, made you look. That's the only experience I can have anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? They
Yeah.
don't have all those other things that one can experience.
Mm-hmm.
They can only experience through proxy. And the only experience they can have through that is when they notice, they get you to notice them. That I developed that theory because I had to start asking myself, why am I getting so many hauntings? Because you'll see during this period, it was really out of hand. And I think a big part of that was my tremendous naivete. I just refused to believe it was an actual haunting.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay.
So they got to get that thrill over and over. I played into it every time. Okay.
Okay.
So um, I'll tell you one of the first things where I started thinking, is this a haunting? So now we're back at the beginning of the story and I found out later, this is a common type of haunting where, so this is the microphone, right? So, Kristen, right? You know that I whispered it, even though it was loud, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because it was close.
Yep.
So here I am sitting in my Winchester house. Oh, by the way, where I lived is an old Portuguese neighborhood. So our landlord, it was the house he grew up in. It was an old ranch style house back when the Portuguese just had orchards and vineyards. And then the Lima family, another Portuguese family, they turned all of their properties into funeral cemeteries, rather. So one half of all of Winchester Boulevard is nothing but cemeteries.
Oh
So
my gosh.
there you go. The perfect recipe. Okay. Not only that, in so because our house was so old from back then, what got preserved in his backyard were three huge redwood trees that you could see from anywhere in the neighborhood. Like you were miles away, you're like, there's my house, because you could see these huge redwoods. One of the theories of ghosts and spirits is that they live in, on, or at trees,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, if you look at Akira Kurosawa's one of his last films called Dreams, I believe, you'll see like there's this cherry orchard, and all of the trees turn into spirits because that's a you look at in Korean traditional culture. Um, every village had its own village god, and he always lived at the oldest tree in the village. The reason why that happens is because from generation to generation, it's easy to point to, yeah, that tree's been here for generations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we worship trees and rocks and stuff, because it was the one thing that persisted through time from generation to generation,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So at any rate, that's what it came to be. So again, that's my theory. I'm going back and forth through time, right? So we have these huge redwood trees. The house itself is made of redwood, so the whole ranch house is nothing but redwood planks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the first things I noticed, where you'd hear your name whispered in your ear. I looked, I turned around. There's obviously it's just me and my roommate, right? So I'm like, yeah, hey, did you call me? And then I walk up again. This is how naive I play it every single time, because I heard it whispered. Why would I have to bother, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I always have to verify. See, because in the back of my head, I always think, I wonder if it's no, couldn't be, right? So that's
Yeah.
why I play it through, and you'll see in my stories, I always play it through.
Uh-huh.
So I get up and I'm like, yeah, did you call me? And I see he's literally at the other end of the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, did you just call my name? He's like, no, bro, what are you talking about? I'm like, okay, that was strange. Let's not think about it. So again, and so I think because I was in that denial, it just kept happening again and again and again.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Second thing that I started noticing is you'd lose something like a nail clipper, a key, etc. Little tiny things that you would notice is gone very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept ending up in the left-hand pocket of clothes.
Oh, oh. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
The most telling thing was, at the time I had this hand carved amulet from that I got at a Korean Buddhist temple with a special kind of writing on it, right? I even showed it to my grad school teacher later on, and he said, "Oh, this is a special kind of writing,
Mm-hmm.
especially and it's like ward off hundreds of spirits, ghosts, etc." Right? This thing always disappeared first. When I really started to notice it is once again it disappeared, right? And I remember thinking one night, I don't know why I thought this. I'm like, oh my God, I should check. So Drew's my roommate, right? I was like, I should check Drew's pocket before he does the laundry. I don't know why I thought that. Again, I think it's because I already started noticing things turned up in the left hand pocket, right?
Yep, yep. Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the next morning I forgot. And then, sure enough, a couple days later, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I left your little amulet on the washing machine. He's like, I accidentally washed it with my shorts. And I was like, so when he gets home, he always puts on this pair of shorts that he wears, like his house shorts, right? It ended up in those.
That is, oh my
Why
gosh.
would my
What?
amulet end up
Right,
his
right.
shorts? Of course, it's impossible.
Yes, it's impossible.
Neither
That's the
he
thing.
nor I would ever put it there.
Right.
Okay, the story keeps going. So let's fast forward to the end of my stay there. Right now, we're all packing up. We're getting ready to. No. It's not that quite that far, but it's just before we're moving out. By then, we had brought in another roommate. He was in the front room, right? And he was a chain smoker, right? And he let me. He had his lighter, and he put it down on the coffee table. And he had a cat that played with bottle cap.
Mm-hmm.
So he was gonna go. He needed his lighter to go smoke a cigarette. He's like, "Where's my lighter?" I was like, "Yeah, it's right there on the coffee table." He's like, "No, it's not there." He's like, "Oh, your cat must have knocked it over, played with it." He tears apart his room. He's like, "Man, it's my only lighter. Fuck." And I'm like, "Dude," I'm like, "You know what?" And then I thought, by this point, it was a pretty solid idea that things show up in pants pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in his sweatpants because it was a weekend. And I was like, you might want to check your jean pockets, right? And he's like, dude, I'm telling you, he's like, when I got home from work Friday, because it was Saturday, afternoon, he's like, I got home from work, I took off my jeans, I put them there on that couch where they still are. He's like, I've been in my sweat since. There's no way it could be there because he had just used it a couple minutes earlier. So he tears apart his room again. Finally, I yell, I'm like, check your fucking jeans, right? He's like, I'm telling you, they can't possibly be. And he pulls the lighter out of his jeans. So somehow that lighter, that single lighter that was on the coffee table, without us noticing, floated across the room. Like those cheesy 50s movies where they put stuff on a fishing wire, you know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of those. I mean, without us knowing, it danced on a fishing line and ended up in his left-hand pocket.
It apported.
Yeah.
That's the magic word we use in the
Oh,
field.
is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when we were just like, oh my God. I was like, that's when we had never discussed this openly. I was like, bro, has this been happening to you? He's like, yeah. So then that's when all our stories started coming out, where it was like, yeah, this happened, that happened, all the weirdness that had been happening in the house. Final story of how I was certain this motherfucking ghost was left-handed. And now you actually gave me a big piece of the puzzle, because I never could understand how this final one happened about porting.
Okay.
Because it isn't the dancing fishing line. It's porting. And this is how.
Yeah.
So you gave me a brand new. I've told the story a million times, and now I know how to tell it, because I didn't know how this happened before. I just said, I don't know. You tell me how it happened. Okay. But now I know it ported. Okay. And now by this point, now we're moving out. Okay. And it had been like a year since I'd seen that amulet. I mean, this time it was gone. Okay. So now I'm moving out. And it's all packed in the U-Haul now, right? And I'm like, oh shit. There was one. So when I first moved in, I grabbed a pair of cargo pants, right? And I put them in a cabinet and then shut the cabinet. And then when I moved the rest of the stuff in, I put a couple of the extra, like the last couple boxes I didn't finish unpacking, I put them in the corner, blocking that cabinet door. So the entire time I lived there, and then of course, me being me, I never unpacked those. So they literally sat in that corner until they was ready to just pack them back into the moving truck. I'm sure people are familiar with that kind of thing. So, but at any rate, I never opened that cupboard the entire time I lived there, because I put the pants in, closed it, put the boxes there, never unpacked those boxes, right? So now I packed those boxes. I was like, oh, wait, I actually put a pair of pants on. I remember I opened it up. I grabbed the pants out. I was like, oh, it's funny. I never wore these pants. Reach in the left-hand pocket, and that's where the fucking amulet was.
No. See, like how do you explain that? How
It
do people
ported. I never knew
Okay.
how it got there,
So
because the boxes weren't moved,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Unless
when the dust settles, right,
yeah.
it marks where the boxes are. The boxes never moved. That door never opened
Yeah.
for a ghostly figure to place it there. It
Yeah.
ported.
Well,
There
yeah,
was no
because I was
physical
thinking like,
movement.
yeah, because I was thinking like, okay, how would somebody very skeptical of this,
Right.
and it has to be logical, how
There's
would they?
no explanation.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
yeah.
human, like in other words, if someone was playing a joke, let's say, like a skeptic. Oh, it's probably your roommate playing a prank.
Right, exactly.
There's no fingerprints. There's no, what are you going to put the, what I'm talking about? Dust, the way it collects, it's fragile. If something's been moved, right? Like that scene from that movie where she kidnaps the writer in her house.
Oh, Misery.
Misery.
Yeah.
Remember when she notices the penguin flipped around, right?
It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Anyway, just the tiniest little detail. You can't. A penguin doesn't turn itself around through wind. Somebody had to have moved it, right?
Yeah.
When you look at a box, right, on the floor, and the crust of dust that develops right along that crease, you can't move it and then bring that crust back.
Yeah.
It's this fragile little piling of dust particles. Do you see what I mean? There, in other
Hmm.
words, no, there's no explanation.
Yeah,
When you
not to
touch a
mention that
box, yeah,
that would be horrible of a roommate to play that long game prank
right,
on you. Like
right, and
awful.
exactly. And a long game prank has no payoff if they don't take credit for it at some point. So that's the other problem.
Yep.
At some point, they'll be like, "Hey, did you find it?" Right. So
Yeah.
you just answered a key question. I never understood. So this porting has a second part
Okay. Okay.
if you want. I don't know. I
And
mean, did you want to
I don't want to misinform you. It's upporting. Upport.
port
Yes, yes. It's
like
you know, it's just the concept of like I guess I'm not sure
like
exactly how it
teleporting?
happens, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but it's where
Uh-huh.
an object can be one place and then for whatever reason
Suddenly be another place.
suddenly be in another place.
Porting.
Just
Okay. Well, I'm
yeah.
glad I learned that because
But I'm glad yeah, I'm glad you
I
could
have a
pick it up
second
today.
instance of porting.
Okay, okay.
I mean, do you want to hear it now?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so now I told you I worked at a notoriously haunted hotel. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in downtown San Jose, there is a hotel called the St. Clair Hotel. It's been there since the 20s or 30s. It's a historical landmark and all that, right? I can tell you a lot of stories about that too, but I'll start with mine. Well, let me start with the last story. So I worked the graveyard, and I so what I do is I run the audit. Means I do accounting work, right? So I print all the reports from the 8 different departments. Housekeeping, front desk, restaurant, food, this, that, and the other, right? So there's 8 different departments that make money. So I do print reports 1 through 8. I always print them as one thing. I don't do them separately, right? I just say 1 through 8, and it prints all 8.
Mm-hmm.
And I take them and I, put them in 8 things across the front desk, right? Okay, so one of the famous ghosts there I didn't know about is there's a guy in a top hat that shows up in the lobby, and I used to see him all the time. Remember I told you about my naivete?
Mm-hmm.
I'd see him and I'd be like, "Yes, can I help you, sir?" And no one's there. I'd walk out, "Sir, can I help you?" you know, Fell for it every time. So, I look up, can I help you, sir? And
And
I look
did you
down.
know about it at that time when you were
No,
seeing
not,
him?
not,
Okay.
I'll tell you, it's my last day of work. I found out who he was.
Oh, oh, okay.
I'll tell you the rest of that story. So that I said, that's why I'm going to start at the end first and circle
Okay.
back to the beginning. So I look, can I help you? I look down, report 4. The one right in front of me is missing. Report 4. So I printed 1 through 8. So again, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is this a ghost? No, it can't be. So I'm like, there has to be an explanation. Maybe it floated off. I don't know. So I walked through the entire lobby. I check all the trash cans. I even walk to the back office. I even go upstairs and check the file cabinets up there
Mm-hmm.
because I just wanted to make sure. Again, I think I wouldn't have done that because there's no natural way. But I think in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe it upported, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it did. I'll tell you how we found out later. So, and here's the really awkward thing. This is the trick. Because I dug through the trash, and the trash gets taken out just before my shift. So the only stuff that was in there is just stuff since the trash was taken out. There was this really cute Latina that worked there, right? And she had handwritten on our stationery this letter that she tore up, a couple different drafts of it, about how her baby daddy had given her the clap. I was like, I didn't need to know all this,
And just let it was
but
just
they were
like
too
sitting there for everybody to
well. But you see what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
my theory is he wanted me to see her letter,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So there was this very embarrassing letter that she wrote several drafts of, tore up, and threw in the trash. And that was the only thing in the trash. I feel like he lured me. He's like, "I'm gonna get this guy to read this damn letter. This letter's fucking hilarious." Right? Because it's just really embarrassing. Right? I mean, imagine. She would
Mm-hmm.
not want anyone, and I never told her, obviously. Fast forward to my last day of work. I go into the back office and I look down, and you know how when we were kids, we used to take a piece of paper and fold it back to front, back to front, back to front, and we form like a little fan out of it,
Oh, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess where report 4 from months earlier? It's folded back to front, like perfectly, it, like perfectly. It was just sitting there on the table, and I'm just staring at it, and I'm pulling it apart, and it's done so tightly that I'm like pulling it apart, right? And I know right away when it is, and I'm like, what the hell is this, to my manager. He's like, oh, hey, I think, isn't that yours? I'm like, yeah, I damn well know it is mine. Where the hell did you get this? Right? Because I know exactly what it is, and everyone knows it's haunted, right? So when we go there, I'll get back. I'm going backwards. I'll tell you when you first get there, all the workers tell you, oh yeah, by the way, the hotel's haunted, you know. So I pull this apart and I'm like, but where did you get it? He's like, oh, okay. So we have this safe in the back where all of our master keys are, right?
Uh-huh.
And I always have to take the master keys because at nighttime I'm the only employee there, so I get the manager's keys, and it's always in that safe. Now that safe is on legs, on metal legs, and the key to safes is you always have to bolt them into the foundation, otherwise they could just take the whole safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now this whole time, for years and years and years and years, it had never been bolted in. So the manager's like, oh, you know how we had never bolted that in? He's like, we finally brought in workers to bolt that in. But before they started, they pulled it up off the wall. And that report was in between the wall and the metal leg, like
No.
in between. That's why it was folded so perfectly back to front.
So nobody would have ever seen it just walking by.
No
It's just
one,
perfectly like
it was
standing behind a tree.
perfectly hidden. Yeah. So they
What in the
pulled they
world?
pulled the safe out and it fell out.
How?
So it ported.
Well, yeah, but like I don't
My
even
report
your
with the
report.
date on it, right? And
Yeah.
why I didn't keep it is beyond me, because I should have sent that to a museum. Oh, by the way, I never found it, so I ended up going back into the computer and
Yeah.
doing something that I never do, which is just print
Mm-hmm,
report
mm-hmm.
number
Right,
4.
right.
So and then I finished my work that night. But there was the original report. So if you go back into the system, you'll see there are 2 report 4
Mm.
department 4 printed out.
I wonder why the excessively like overly the overexerted energy
Because
to get your
be,
attention or something.
right, and that's exactly why.
Mm-hmm.
Because me telling you this story now makes it impossible otherwise. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Why is it so elaborate? Because anything else can be explained.
True.
Report
Very true.
4, which is the one that's directly in front of me, not 1 or 8, which could have fallen out. Any of them could have fallen off the desk. Only report 4 couldn't have, because it was directly in front of my belly. Right.
Man, yeah,
And
yeah.
then it was in a place where no one could. I mean, this thing is so heavy, no one could have pulled it out, put it there, pushed it back, and then for it to be the last day for it to happen too. Again, it's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
very
Like the
elaborate.
timing. There
The
is
timing, it's
a
unbelievable.
certain amount of like
Yes,
synchronicity
absolutely.
to your experiences and to all of this, where it's just kind of like this crazy thing happened, this impossible thing happened. The timing was perfect, but it happened in this way, and in
Hmm.
that it is undeniable
Yes, that's
that.
the specificity. See,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's how you don't like, this isn't a made up story. That's how
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because a made up story, you can always tell lies because it lacks specificity. A good example of that is Quentin Tarantino's script of Reservoir Dogs,
Mm-hmm.
where he's coming up with that lie. And the guy's coaching him. He's like, you got to know what kind of soap they had. You got to know whether they had towels or air dried. You got to know, like, you got to know all these specificities, because that's how true stories look. They
Mm-hmm.
have, Inception, that movie, where he figures out it's a dream because he had the wrong kind of shag carpet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yep, yep.
That's what real stories look like. So again, that you're asking, why would it be such an elaborate setup? Because that's shit, you can't make that shit up.
Yeah, yeah. Man, Charles.
Porting. So you filled a major hole in my life's
Well,
existence.
it was still doing it no matter whether it had a
Right.
name or
Well, no,
not,
yeah,
but yeah.
exactly. So I got the report and I went down to the basement, and because I wanted to show our general manager, right?
Hmm.
I was like, you won't believe what happened. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, that's nothing. He's like, talk to Maria. She's been here forever. Now, this hotel, it was built as a hotel way back in the day. Then then it went out of business and it became an insane asylum. Like one of those old school bad kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then when that became out of fashion and they shuttered that, then later on it became a retirement home where a lot of people died.
Hmm.
And then finally it became and then it sat empty for like 12 years, and then it became a hotel again. Then when the hotel came back, one of their first general managers died in the conference rooms. So when we first come into work, one of the first things they'll tell you is, "Oh yeah, by the way, this place is haunted," and they go through the floors. They're like, for example, on the second floor in the conference rooms, some people have seen our manager because he went back there, didn't feel good, unloosened his tie, sat down in the chair, and died of a heart attack. So he
Ooh.
died in one of those conference rooms. So people have seen him there. And they're like, on the fourth floor, there's a couple of kids. Sure enough, every once in a while, we'll have people come down. There's a couple of unsupervised children playing on the fourth floor. I'm like, I should have told them, like, there's no children. You just saw our ghosts because the fourth floor was being renovated at that time. There was nobody on the fourth floor, no guests, nobody.
Yeah. Well, real quick, who did you
Uh-huh.
ever think about or ponder who the man in the top hat was?
Okay, so that's how I found out. So then I went down to my general manager and he's like, "Oh, you got to talk to Maria. She's been here." So Maria has been working there since they had shuttered it and before it became an old folks home and then a hotel again, etc. So she had been working there for like 20 some years, right?
Hmm.
And she always takes a different job at that site, right? So when it was shuttered, she became the security guard manager and she has all these stories. So she's like going through all the floors of where she's like, "Oh, there's two kids on the fourth floor." I'm like, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. She's like, "Oh, and one of our old managers, he's on the." I'm like, yeah, I know. And she's like, and then on the ground floor, there's this old guy, there's one of those 20s flappers with the tuxedo tails and a top hat. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I've seen him so many times,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So that's how I figured out. Now, who is he? Who knows? But it's all the stereotypes. Because thinking back on it now, no legs,
Hmm.
no face, but I did see a big grin. Wearing like
Ooh.
white gloves. One of those old school canes,
Hmm.
and yeah, and it was bizarre. Like the thing is, I'd always see him through the glass. So there was this glass display case, and in it were like these ancient artifacts. The owner is this Persian guy. He's Iranian. So he had like these ancient artifacts in there, like from Babylon and shit like that. And I'd always see him through these glass panes. Like, yeah, excuse me, can I help you, sir? I mean, I saw him so many times. And in the back of my mind, I knew something was up because
Yeah.
where the fuck did he go? Just suddenly disappeared. And I clearly saw him to the degree that like I even because it got so bad, I started just walking out and looking just to make sure there was no one there. Again,
Hmm.
why would I do that if in the back of my mind I knew something was up.
Right, right,
Something doesn't smell right.
right, right.
And that's how I was able to verify, like, "Oh, you sure you just didn't see a this and that or a shadow?" She was able to verify that, "Oh, there's the famous ghost. Yeah, he looks like this."
Right. Well,
Go
and
ahead.
not
What were you gonna ask? Yeah.
oh, it's already gone. Sorry.
Uh,
I think it was what was the thought? Oh,
well,
you made me think of like when people say they see shadow people, but just out of
uh,
the corners of their eyes.
right, right,
And they go to look, and that concept in and of itself to me was kind of validating that there was something there, like the way that our eyes are wired with the cones and the
right.
rods, the motion sensing
Mm-hmm.
versus the detail sensing and all
Yes.
of that. That's where
Mm-hmm.
they're located on the side of the eyes. So like when you see movement in that periph, like it's strong, like I can
Yeah.
see my hand moving right now, right
Right,
beside my
right,
face.
right, right.
So to turn because you saw movement,
Yeah.
like kind of, I don't know, that just reminded me of that
Yeah,
concept.
just to remind you, so for the sake of your listeners, the reason why we talk about the five senses is
Hmm.
purely only because of the Greeks. Because the Greeks, everything had to be five, right? So sight, smell, taste, blah, 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 right?
Hmm.
But as you pointed out, in fact, we have dozens of senses. For example, sense of balance, the sense that you're being touched. And then you just talked about this certain kind of sight. Sight is not singular, right? Like you said, there's different kinds of sight, like the way our eye works. So locating things, right? That's evolutionary. You need to be able to notice if something in your peripheral vision is a threat,
Right. Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. It is designed for that kind of sight, right? And now in terms of shadow people as well, A lot of shadow people is associated with sleep paralysis,
Hmm.
which I also have suffered from since I was a kid. So I can tell you stories about sleep paralysis as well too. So yeah, I'm blessed or cursed, however you want to think about it.
Well, you certainly,
Yeah.
they've got your number, Charles. I do got to say, and I know because, like, when we used to talk, you told me a bunch of other paranormal stories, and these are two brand new,
Yeah.
stories to me. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to go shadow person, or you said you had some psychic experiences? Maybe just one more personal story of that nature, and then there is something specific I want to talk to you about before we go.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can relate. Okay, so I'll just finish off that story. So
Sure,
basically,
sure.
what she was able to explain to me, the Maria, is how dramatic it is that 20s scenery.
Hmm.
So now, what she explains is that our lounge, okay, it's called the Palms Lounge. You could go there. Uh, right now, there's only a tiny little bar in the corner, but she was explaining to me that bar used to extend the whole length of the lounge back pre-prohibition. When it was abandoned, one night her security guard, calls her up and he says, "Listen!" He's like screaming. He holds the phone. You could hear beer glasses clinking, people talking, people pounding on the bar. That bar is no longer there. It's only a little segment. So that activity, that psychic karmic
Yeah, yeah,
activity,
yeah.
it just is still lingering and sort of flared up, if you will. So, this happened, and she could hear it over the phone, like all this activity. And of course, like she's like, I was like, what happened to that guy? She's like, he never came to work again. He quit. She was like, it was a wreck. She's like,
Like, you
I
don't
had to go.
pay me enough.
She's like, I had to get out of bed and go to work, and I had to do the rest of the shift. He
Oh
disappeared.
no. And you
He
know
never
what's
came back.
funny is like,
So he's part of that psychic energy, I'm assuming.
yeah, yeah. Well, what that sounds like
Funny.
to me is
Yeah.
like a residual type thing, not that there
Right.
was multiple intelligent life, ghosts there. Like it sounded residual. It was like an imprint from history, and that's what was going on. So it shouldn't have scared him away
like
because,
like uh battlegrounds,
yeah,
like
yeah.
where like guards show up on duty. You can clearly see in some of these videos these old soldiers that are just doing their regular sentry work. They're still just going through that psychic energy, or these famous castles of ghosts in nightgowns, walking through the walls and such. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? I mean, the average person doesn't know enough about this world or even the distinction between intelligent versus residual and that there's nothing to fear, well, with either. So
Oh, okay.
all of
Well,
it scares
is that
them.
true? I used to think that was true too,
Mm,
but
hmm.
I don't know if that's true. I think there are virulent, what do you call that's that word, pernicious, or yeah, they're malicious. There are malicious intelligent spirits too, aren't there? That do naughty things? No? I mean, when they
I
push
have
you down the
my
stairs.
theories and my thoughts, but yeah, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, when they push you downstairs.
Uh-huh.
So a friend of mine, okay, so in the same city, there's I used to go to this house club there. It's just a barbecue restaurant. You can still go there today.
Hmm.
It's a barbecue restaurant, but every Friday night they turned it into a house club.
Hmm.
And I used to go there every Friday, and I had a friend that worked there. And before they opened up, he's coming down the stairs, and something shoved him. He nearly went all the way down. And
Wow.
that place is famously haunted. The reason why I know, okay, so when you go there, like the front porch area where you walk in is like rickety old wood and stuff, and like with like warped wood and everything. That it's an
Hmm.
old horse stall. It's literally a saloon from the cowboy days.
Oh, wow.
Like that's how old it is. The
Yeah,
floor
yeah.
is completely slanted at an angle. That thing, it's just a relic of a building. It reminds me exactly of so there's a place called Jack London Square in Oakland where the writer Jack London used to go,
Mm.
and there's an old saloon there that he used to literally go to. Same thing. The floors are just so horribly slanted because it's the same
It's the
damn wood
original.
from
Yeah, yeah.
it's the arc. It's way off, but that's how old it is. So yeah, I mean, it's that residual stuff, but they could be. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. You were gonna.
Oh no, no, I was thinking because I do want to ask you specifically about something. When you reached out, I think it was round about the time I was posting something on TikTok, and we were talking a little bit about that. And I'm very curious because that is what this season is about, UFOs and aliens and all of that, you have had a UFO encounter, a
Yeah,
sighting. Is that
yeah,
correct?
yeah. So this was in Tustin. So in Tustin, there's an important helicopter base, or there was. Okay, it's been decommissioned. It has the largest doors west of the Mississippi. Okay, so it just has these huge doors and these hangars where the helicopters used to fly in and out of. Right.
Hmm.
Um, if you'll notice, lots of UFOs show up at military bases or decommissioned military
I'm
bases. Just
gathering so
just
far.
look through
Yeah.
the history. I mean,
Hmm.
look up the very famous incident of the nuclear missile one. You got
Oh,
to look that one up.
Is that Malmstrom?
I can't remember. I can't remember, but there's a very well recorded incident of a UFO coming to a nuclear silo,
Hmm.
shutting it down, and they had a bit of a panic, and the Air Force has records of it. It all happened. But anyway, so it was a military base, and my friend and I were sitting there talking, and it was just at dusk, so it's that hazy gray time when our eyes don't work the best. Which probably, if you're gonna be stealth, that would be the best time, right?
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
our eyes are least effective at dusk and dawn. So our eyes are either cones or rods, right?
Hmm.
We're either
Hmm.
color or black and white. But that hazy gray area at dusk and dawn is maximizes our visual acute. That's when the most accidents happen, et cetera, right?
Hmm. Yep.
So he and I are talking, and no, we weren't drinking, smoking, nothing. Okay, we are just having this conversation, sort of looking over, and we notice, I don't know how to. Okay, so imagine this is a ball. It was either metallic or something, right? And way in the horizon, right? So the base is over there, right? And in the horizon, we see an object go like this, but faster, like about 10 times like this, and then boom, disappear. Okay, now here's why I want to point this out. In our physics, in Newtonian physics, in our
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
okay, you cannot do this.
Hmm.
Why? Because of the law of thermodynamics, if you accelerate this fast, this is what, tens of thousands of miles per hour,
Hmm.
hundreds of thousands of miles per hour, where you just go, right? When you stop, if there's something inside there, it's going to get splattered on the wall inside.
Right. Right.
And or when you go, because of inertia, it'll tear that craft apart because the energy is still going this way. You can't just stop. It's the same reason why, if you jump off a moving car, right, it's going to destroy you because you're moving at the same when you're on a car, you're moving at the same rate of the car. So when it stops, all of the material of the craft is still moving this way. If it stops, all that shit is going to keep going.
Just for you just made me think real quick. I got so sucked into watching for my listeners who are not watching this
Oh
video,
yeah,
the motion of this object. And let's just go back real quick. So
yeah.
it was like an orbish, like a ball.
Yeah, it was
Okay, it
probably
was
like a
metallic.
yeah. It
Okay,
seemed metallic-ish
okay.
but again, it was far away. It was over on the horizon. It was because the area around the base, there's no buildings, there's no nothing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just clear 3D space, right?
Okay, okay.
Except for these gigantic warehouses with these gigantic doors, and this little object from a place of complete rest and stop will accelerate really quickly to a single point and stop on a dime. Reverse direction exactly 180 degrees, go back exactly the same speed backwards to this point it started at, stop on a dime, reverse direction again, and it did that multiple times, about a dozen times, and it stayed in that same grid in 3D space. So it's not like it moved forward or backward. It wasn't like
Mm-hmm.
literally gridding, but
It
it
was
was
just back and
gridding.
forth, back and
It was just
forth.
back and forth. And
Okay.
then finally, on which after it stopped on a dime, it took off at an angle, like let's say like a 45-degree angle, and then disappeared into space. It disappeared into it
Oh.
just
Whew.
and it accelerated. I mean, it was gone within a couple of, it just and it was
Yeah.
gone. Space,
Yeah.
like, because
Yeah.
here, okay, so you understand that when you go into space, all you're doing is going far enough that the gravity of Earth doesn't pull you back anymore.
Right.
And this thing just moved. It just shot like a bullet. If you can imagine a bullet
Mm-hmm.
in a
Mm-hmm.
single line, or more like a laser. You know. Now, why is this important? And why do I say this is a warp drive? The only theory as to how that can happen is okay, so let's pretend this is the orb. So I'm holding up a little ball looking thing, and here I'm holding up a napkin. Okay. So this napkin is space time.
Hmm.
Okay. Space time is like a fabric. Now I'm holding up the napkin like a
Yeah, yeah,
fabric.
yeah. Verbalize,
Oh
walk us
shit.
through it.
Yeah. So I'm holding up this napkin now, and the weight of this orb, which I can't keep on here, but the weight of this orb, you see how it's sinking? It
Yeah, yeah.
sinks.
So it's sinking through the napkin.
It sinks through the napkin.
Hmm.
There, you can see it. It sinks into the napkin. It
Yeah.
forms a little depression.
Yep.
And okay, so gravity affects space time. Okay, so when an object comes into orbit, it does this around the Earth, right?
Like it gets slingshotted,
Like
or yeah. Well,
right,
it gets
because
grabbed, right?
it looks like a slingshot,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's going from point A to point B in a straight line, but because of gravity curving space time,
Hmm.
right? So now space time, if it's a fabric, now the reason why in our I was saying in our world you can't stop on a dime because thermodynamics. The key to overcoming things like friction, the friction of air, is if you could warp space time around the object itself, then it doesn't matter if you stop on a dime because it's not stopping. It's warping space time around itself.
Oh,
That
whoa.
that's the so in other words, now I have this fabric. Let's say I take that depression that the orb was making,
Hmm.
right? And I lost the orb. So the orb makes a little depression. Now let's say I move the depression and it pulls the orb along.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
So the
moving.
orb
I'm
is not moving. That
the
that
orb
globe
is
is not
not
moving.
moving.
Yeah, yeah. The napkin was moving, listeners. Okay.
The
Okay.
napkin is moving.
Yeah, yeah.
The fabric of space time is moving.
Doesn't that it isn't that and I that's a fascinating like this whole thing is fascinating. But
Now,
my
I
my
suppose it could be possible if some technology were able to create gravity waves.
right, right.
Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking because I've heard a couple of different theories about
Okay.
how these because they are what do they call them? Non-reaction propulsion systems. They don't have
Right.
any visible means of propulsion.
Correct.
They're
And that's
doing these
correct. I
crazy
did not see
erratic
any,
movements.
right. I did not see any propulsion. That was the thing. Yeah,
And I've heard, yeah, that there's something like there's an anti-gravity like
that's
part of the
right.
system that it's magnetic possibly that it's using
It could be.
the metal of the earth to move like that because
Right.
how these things are moving is impossible, just like how you described your experience. It
Right.
is impossible with our current understanding of
It cannot
physics.
happen.
It
Yeah, it
can't.
cannot happen.
So it's
But
working
I
on
saw it. Two people saw it.
absolutely outstanding.
So
That's a crazy, crazy story. It's cool.
the reason why we're so far away from this technology is because we only finally just proved gravity waves exist a few years ago. We only took a picture of it a few years ago.
Okay.
We always knew that we're there. Einstein's theory of relativity already predicted it way back when. We assumed it was true. The problem is gravity is an extraordinarily weak force. It's incredibly hard to detect.
Hmm.
The way they were able to do it, though, finally, is I think they use the Earth itself. That because so things can actually penetrate the Earth itself. If it has such little mass.
Hmm.
So if you can check from one side to the other, that's how you can detect very faint things that even the whole Earth itself won't affect it.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
That's how undetectable these things are.
Yeah, yeah.
That even the whole Earth, when you check from one side of the Earth to the other, you can barely detect something, right? So, for example,
Okay.
like a neutrino. So neutrinos are going through the Earth all the time. They can detect a neutrino from that enters the Earth on one side and detect it as it goes out the Earth the other side. And they were able to detect that it changed charge, which that's how they were able to determine that neutrinos do have some mass. We had thought neutrinos had no mass because it's literally going through the whole Earth. But if it's able to change charge, that must mean it has some minuscule amount of mass.
Okay.
So that's how we're able to do some of these experiments that are so hard to detect. So again, with the gravity waves, it was very hard to do, but we finally detected them. And since then, I believe we've also taken pictures of them, I believe, especially with so we had the Hubble telescope, and now we have the new one, the new one that we sent out there. Anyway, they're able to take pictures way out at the edge of the universe, and so we're able to find out a lot more. We're finding out a lot more surprising things about the universe. So
Yeah.
so gravity waves are very hard to detect. But again, if you have the technology to create them or manipulate them or whatever, then you would be able to play around or manipulate space time itself. Would presumably be not be that hard. So,
Okay.
because again, uh, gravity's so weak, it's not like it would spiral out of control, so to speak, right? You would be able to affect it in just a very nearby area, I guess. I mean, who, who the fuck knows? But it would make you. In other words, you don't have to affect space time in a far away place. Just maybe even millimeters away from your craft.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. This is I will have to have you back at some point because
Okay, yeah.
first of all, we did not get to shadow people. We did not get to your
Okay,
psychic experiences, but you said before we started recording, I was like, I've just had one experience. I don't have anything to say about UFOs. Blah, blah, blah. You have a ton to say and you know so much. You are a wealth of knowledge, Charles, as usual, of course. Just one more question on the subject,
yeah.
and then we really do have
Sure,
to
sure,
wrap
sure, sure.
because I want my audience to hear this from you. What did you
Okay.
say about the patent?
Oh well, the U.S. Navy they came out when the government released those three videos from the Navy from their jets of UFOs that they cannot explain. At the same time, they released the fact that there's a quirky scientist. He's known in the field, and he has taken out two patents on warp drives. So obviously, he believes that there is some sort of schematic, because in order to get a patent, you have to propose some sort of schematic. Now, critics will say, well, sure, the Navy would do that just in case. In other words, if somebody else develops it, the military needs to be able to say that's ours.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying, oh yeah, the military does that all the time just to make sure that no one else can get their hands on some sort of technology that the U.S. military would be at a disadvantage of. That's
Yeah,
the counter
yeah.
argument. That,
Okay.
oh, don't worry, they're not actually working on warp drives. That's just one of those just in case things, right?
Right, right.
Um,
Interesting. Well, that's just really interesting information I hadn't heard anywhere else.
and
So,
and here's another little factoid.
mhm.
Do you know what a Foo Fighter is?
I've heard of I haven't gotten into it yet, but I have
Okay,
heard of them.
so there's everyone's like, oh, it's the band Foo Fighters, right? That is what World War II pilots called UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
were like, yeah, oh yeah, I saw a Foo Fighter on the way back. It followed me for hundreds of miles, and it suddenly took off. Or there was this bright orb. It followed me for a while, and then just dipped out of sight and traveled super fast. And that's what they called them, Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
So we've been seeing these things forever.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. It goes back further in history. I think even just possible occurrences of them go back much further in history than most people know or are aware of. So yeah, it's just been fascinating. That's what my next episode is going to be about. So I won't give
Okay,
too much away. But yeah, we are getting here near the end. I like to throw some rapid fire questions at my guests, just
sure.
real brief, as quickly as you can answer. And these are just for fun, and then we will call it good. First question: which paranormal experience or supernatural encounter have you not had but would like to?
Oh, I do not want to have an alien encounter. I mean,
You
I
don't
have
want to
not.
have one?
I mean, I think I would be traumatized. If I
Well,
saw an alien, I'd be like, fuck this.
yeah,
It-
but what has
like a
not
different
happened?
being. It has not happened. I have not. I've seen a UFO, as I
Yeah,
explained, but
yeah.
I haven't seen an actual alien. So again, I cannot assume the UFO that I saw was alien because it could be
Right,
U.S. military,
right,
or it could
right.
be us from the future. So you don't
Well,
know that it could be a time traveling craft as well.
mm-hmm,
So we don't
mm-hmm.
know that either.
Okay,
So
okay. All right.
I've
Ferris?
not seen an alien, but I don't know that if I want to. I mean, I do obviously because all of us are curious, but I think I'd also be traumatized for life.
Well, you might have just answered the third question here. I'll go with the
Okay.
second question.
Okay.
What do you think is the reason some people have so many experiences compared to those who don't have any at all, have never had one?
Yeah. My theory is what I told you during the ghost. My naivete, my willingness
Think that's it.
to give them the reaction of like, oh my god, and they trick me over and over, and I think they get a thrill out of it.
Get
It's the
something out of
last
it.
bit of fun. That's the last
Hmm.
bit of fun they can have.
Okay. All right. And here's that third question. um, would you rather be abducted and learn the secrets of the universe, have a near death experience and learn the secrets of life after death, or meet the ghost of an ancient ancestor and learn the secrets of all human history?
Yeah, I would definitely. I've already had a near death experience. I can tell you that when I come back. Not fun. But yeah, I'm going to contradict myself. I would want to be abducted by aliens and
The
find out the
secrets of
truth.
the
You know,
universe.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and they they'd experiment on you. It's horrible, these experiences, when you hear about them. They experiment on you and it fucks you up. You have like post traumatic stress and stuff. But if they, that the Encounters of the Third Kind, that movie,
Mm-hmm.
the famous Steven Spielberg
Mm-hmm.
movie,
Mm-hmm.
that's based on a tell-all. It's a
Yeah.
supposed whistleblower. Now, again, if we can believe it, there's a whistleblower who said that he was part of a government exchange program, and he spent, I think, 14 years on an alien planet. It was only the equivalent of like 3 years of our time or something like that. But yeah, he spent a whole amount of time. I would volunteer for that. I would. I'd regret it. I'd be scared, but I'd love to know. I would be, like they say, for example, if you're going to be an astronaut to travel to another planet, you probably have to volunteer for the rest of your life. Like that movie Interstellar,
Mm-hmm.
where once he left, he was never going to come back because it was
Yeah.
going to take so long that Earth was going to have moved on.
Yeah.
I would be that one, sadly.
Yeah.
It's a irrevocable choice, but I'm just too curious. I'd have to know.
Yeah. No,
I
you're
would be the one to volunteer for. I would do it.
no,
Put
you've
me in
got to know
cryo
you're
sleep. Send me through space time so that I don't age for hundreds of thousands of years, and 200,000 years later, when Earth is long and gone, and I get to find out, like, oh, there are alien species, there are alien civilizations, and
yeah. Yeah.
I have to know.
Mm-hmm. Your curiosity
I
is
would
going to
make
get the
the I
better
would
of
make the
you.
I would make the regrettable choice. I would, yeah.
All right, Charles. Well, yes, we are at the end. Where would you like my listeners to connect with you? Do you want to direct their attention to anything in
Yeah,
particular?
so I have a podcast that I just started with a high school friend of mine. It's called Easy Yoke, EASY, and then YOLK. Talk about politics, religion. I have a very small YouTube channel where I talk about like prepping, survival, knives, things like that. It's called Hollywood Tactical. So like TACTICOLL. And yeah, just contact me on hollywoodtactical at gmail if you want a sweater. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Did you have an
So
email?
hollywoodtactical at gmail. Yeah, at
There you
gmail.com.
go. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you all have any questions for Charles, want to talk further with him about anything that we have talked about today, shoot him a little message.
Yeah.
All right. So, I close these episodes out with a final note or words of wisdom from my guest. Do you have any you'd like to leave with us?
I'll just say, I think I said it at the beginning, the world is a mysterious place. It's sad that our authorities and the dominant institutions have chosen to leave it wide open for the rest of us, but I guess we're just going to have to fill in the blanks and be pioneers ourselves, and go ahead and look at the more mysterious and unexplained elements of our life and our world around us. So, let's journey forth.
Well said. Charles Chaw, everyone. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for tuning in today, and thank you so much to Charles for joining me on this conversation episode. If you enjoyed my guest and would like to learn more about him or check out his YouTube and podcast, just follow those links in the show notes. You can also follow this show at Paranorm Girl Pod on all socials. You can email the show at paranormgirlpod@gmail.com, and please rate and review wherever you are listening. I thank you so much for your support. That is going to do it for this week. Tune in next Tuesday for another solo episode where I will be taking a look at UFO sightings and reports throughout history. There's a lot of interesting information coming up in that one. Until then, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Stay safe, keep the nightlight on, and sleep with one eye open.